Hello friends, welcome back to my studio. I hope you're well. If you've watched the last few vlogs of mine, you'll know that I've had the studio open for Open Studios and Newstead Open Studios Festival this last weekend, and I've got one weekend to go. It was absolutely fantastic. It was super hot. It was 36, 35, 34 across the 3 days, which meant that it was probably higher than that, maybe even 40 degrees in the studio here. So it was a real struggle, but people still came out, and I'm so appreciative. If you're watching this and you did visit me, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to host you. I had such a great time, and it meant, I think, because it was so hot, people that came really made the effort, and I had really intelligent, really engaging conversations, and it just really lifted me up. It was just so good. So thank you so much for giving me that. So today I thought it might be useful for some of you might be thinking about opening your own studio or how to exhibit, and I thought I would run through what I've learned over the years. I've been exhibiting since the early 90s. Yes, I'm that old. And I just thought I'd talk a little bit about how to exhibit and how to open your own studio to receive guests. And so one of the first things to think about is public liability. Your house insurance, if you have it, only really covers regular visitors, friends and family, and people that might knock on your door, but not actually an event. Once you're hosting an event, you'll need an individual public liability cover. Now that obviously varies from state to state, country to country. Making sure you are covered if somebody trips or something happens, and then you're not stressed about people coming in, that you have yourself covered, can be a nice secure way to open. And as part of the artist community, the collective of art, so we get public liability as a group to cover us just for short term, just for the event dates. The next thing to think about is, how do people even know that you're open? Obviously, being part of a bigger collective like I am with the Newstead Open Studios group, we have a flyer that we create that has the artists and then a little map, help people get around. And there's also an Arts Open program, so there might be a bigger program that you can be listed in. Of course, having flags and signage, enacting your mailing list if you have one on your website, and your socials, just getting everything, every platform you have available to get the word out. The next thing is the studio itself. How do you want your studio to appear? Do you want it to be a bit more like a gallery space, a shop space, or is it really just going to remain a working studio space? I've played around with different variations of that, and I've found people really like to see where you work, the tools that you use. They're coming not just to see you and your work, but also your space. Having materials out is great, but make sure nobody wants to leave with paint on their clothes or their hands, so it does need to be tidied. I always have a couple of seats available for bored children or husbands that are just being dragged along, to be able to sit and have a place and allow whoever they're visiting with, who really wants to be there, allow them time to really have a good look and a chat. You need to also consider, how are people going to move around your space? I find it's nice to have a nice flow where they're doing a circuit rather than having a kind of dead end where they walk in and kind of get stuck and need to figure out how to get back out. So we move the furniture around in here so they can come in, do a circuit around the table, and be able to really get up close to everything that's here to see. First impressions start at the front gate, so making sure that your yard is clear and tidy, mow your lawns if you've got them, having a nice clear path, and good signage about how to get from the front gate to the studio are great ideas. Hide your rubbish bins if they're in that pathway. Theft is unfortunately something to consider. Artwork and art supplies are expensive items and potentially enticing items. So have a think about how much you want to have on display and what you will put away. You won't always be able to keep an eye on everything depending on how many people are in your space. And then we're on to presenting the artwork. At uni, we were told you're only as good as your worst piece. So do make sure you have a very good curate of your work and get rid of anything from display that's not up to standard. Having a theme or a thread to the work can really help make it cohesive. So thinking style, genre, or colour palette can help link the works into a more cohesive show. I think it's a good idea to label all of your artwork and name them rather than just having 1, 2, 3, 4. And some people have a sheet with the works listed, but I like to have a label next to each artwork. And those labels should have, if it's a group show, it should have your name on it. And the other things to include are the title and the date that the work was created, the medium, maybe a brief summary of the work, the size and the price. Depending on the space available, you can do a straight gallery hang, which is the way I do that, or you can do a salon style hang. Salon style is a more traditional style used from the 1600s into the 1800s, where work was hung from the chair rail to the ceiling, all jammed in together, and you can fit a lot of work in this way, and it's an effective way, certainly if you've got a few people sharing the space. But if you've got the space, I think having a more modern gallery hang can be a nice way to go, to give space around each work so people can see the work as an individual piece. I have shown this system before. I just have a normal picture rail hook with if you can see that, this is a cable from used for a bike brake system, a push bike. And I have these proper gallery system hooks that feed onto the wire. And just by pushing that mechanism, it allows me to move the hook up and down so I can get the correct height very easily and adjust all of the work as it's hanging. And something about the height of the work, unfortunately people have a tendency to hang the work very, very high. The rule of thumb is to have the halfway point of the painting at average height eye level. It again will depend on your space, but you want the work low enough that people can engage in it. They don't want to be breaking their neck looking up at it. They want to be able to really step into the painting. So make sure you don't have them too high. I think it's a great idea to display your prices clearly. Be proud of your prices. Stay firm on your price. Artwork has such a variety of price points depending on artist and medium, etc., etc. It's such a big, and I can do another vlog on how to price your artwork. It's such a whole nother thing. And because there's such a variance, people visiting can really be unsure about what your work might cost, and they might like a piece, and because the price isn't there, they might imagine some extraordinary price and walk away from potentially buying that. Whereas if you have your price listed, they can then make a decision, an informed decision straight away, and be clear about where everything's sitting for them. I think also having various price points helps this. I have small works right up into the larger canvas pieces, so there's a really good variety of price points. So people who really might want a piece but perhaps a larger canvas is out of the question for them, they can buy perhaps a gift card or a smaller piece that just makes it a little bit more accessible for them. And on price, don't be too quick to justify or discount your price. Just once you've decided on your price, just sit with those make a decision perhaps beforehand if you are going to be negotiable on a price, or perhaps if they buy, sometimes they'll ask you, if I buy two, is it cheaper? It's a little unfair because that's really how perhaps other items, furniture and supermarkets and things sell. It's a little unfair for people, I think, to ask that on artwork. But if you are going to do that, have it clear in your mind beforehand what you're going to negotiate to or offer, because it's very, very easy. You get a little bit attached to making a sale, and it's very easy to negotiate yourself out of making any money out of it, and you'll have this regret later that the piece, okay, you sold it, and then when you figure out you've actually sold it for less than perhaps what the materials cost you to buy. So I encourage you to be confident with your prices once you've set them. So you're presenting your space, you're presenting your work, but you're also representing yourself, and that can be good and bad. You're on show as much as your work is, and while it's a great opportunity to connect with people, it can also be a very emotional experience. It's like having a piece of your heart hanging on the wall, or being exposed, and everybody can kind of see you when perhaps you like to be. Often artists have this solitary life, we're a bit more hidden, and then suddenly it's like bang, we're on show. So having a support friend or family member that's in the studio with you can be helpful. It can get very busy, and there's often not opportunities to eat or drink, so having that prepared beforehand, having healthy snacks available where you can just nibble and keep your energy up, because it is very exhausting. And if there is alcohol available, try to limit or stay away from it, because you're really going to need your brain power. Think about your clothing. Perhaps don't wear your paint covered clothes, your studio clothes. Dress nice, wear comfy shoes, you'll be on your feet all day. I am an introvert. I do find it quite confronting to meet people, and so what I do is I sit behind a desk here. It's a bit of a kind of dragon seat scenario where I feel confident sitting here. I feel a little bit odd and out of place if I'm standing in the studio. I feel very awkward, and I've learnt that sitting behind the desk initially helps give me a little bit of security and strength to greet the people, and then if something's happening, I can always come out from behind the table and engage with them in the studio space. But I find having a spot that's, for me, a really good starting point. Having a bio or a little blurb about your work can be a really good idea. It can get quite busy, as I said, and you might not get around to everybody, so that can be a way that people are greeted when they come in if you can't get to them straight away. It also gives them a little bit of background information if it's the first time they're visiting you and perhaps they haven't been to the website or seen a flyer or read anything about you. It can just give them a little bit of background, and it can also give them some talking points. It can help prompt conversation, particularly like me, when you perhaps find that conversation starters a little bit harder. Having that little bit of info there can really help start to make the connection and open opportunity of conversation. You need to be prepared to talk about your work. So having a good think about what is your work about beforehand is a really good idea. Don't expect the work to speak for itself. Some people have a fear that they'll get it wrong when looking at work, so they will want to ask a lot of questions rather than being able to trust to just let themselves feel and have a response to the work. So they'll need to hear about it, particularly abstract work. They may need to have some conversation about what's going on, or what your intention was, or what your beliefs are, and that sort of thing. So yes, you need to be able to talk about your work and your own story, your own background, your own art journey. And so in that, you will find you will repeat yourself over and over and over. You'll hear yourself saying the same things. And it can be a little bit like, oh, I'm repeating myself, and you're trying to come up with something new to say, but it's okay because it's the first time they're hearing it. So yeah, you will feel like you're on repeat, and that can be exhausting as well. But it is their first time hearing it, and it is interesting as the first time you said it. So just keep going. Be ready to sell. Make it easy for people to purchase the work. Have a good amount of change available, as well as card facilities really good. I use Square and find it very helpful. And have that advertised, the signage around that you take card or cash can really help finalize a sale. Have wrapping materials. I have this brown paper here. Some people are buying work for gifts, and it's nice to offer a little bit of gift wrapping. You can go as fancy as you like with that. I also have these cellophane bags of various sizes that have a tab to remove, sticky tab that just folds over and seals the work. And that's really helpful because it stops fingerprints and things on the actual artwork, and it also makes it ready to take home. It's quite protected for people to take away. I will leave a link in the description about that. I just buy them from eBay. Really great product, highly recommend. You also need to decide, are you going to let people take the work straight away, or are you going to hang on to it until the end of the exhibition? In a gallery sense, the work always stays until the end of the exhibition, but of course an open studio is a little bit different. If you aren't letting people take the work straight away, keeping really good records of who bought what and where it's going is vital. You don't want to be left with an artwork not knowing who it's meant to go to and not having any way of contacting them. It's really poor practice. You also need to consider, are you going to charge a delivery or postage charge on top of the artwork if you're going that way? Also think about having a little thank you note. I have paper bags, I'll just get one. I have these paper bags if it's a smaller work, and I have a little sticker that I put on there. And each bag is already prepped with a business card and a little postcard, which the postcard has website on it. And the business card, I make sure I've got my socials and things on there. So that's just a nice little extra thing to have in the bag if they're buying anything that fits in that size. Anything else gets wrapped and a sticker put on. You could also think about having an authenticity certificate. I feel like if people are going to make the effort to come to my studio, I want them to have plenty to see and experience. So I really try and make sure I have heaps of work ready in the studio, and I have a good variety, as I said, of smaller works up to bigger works. Firstly, having plenty of work gives that feeling of abundance. It also shows that your artwork isn't a one-off fluke, that you are able to repeat, and that builds trust and perceived value in the work. When a potential collector can see consistency, it really builds trust and value. And there's also a little trick that I learned when I was doing markets, was that if you've got a lot to see, and so people then physically are here longer, new people coming in or, approaching the stall go, wow, there's so many people over there. That must be of value. That must be something good going on over there. Let's go. So it's kind of like the crowd attracts a crowd. It's certainly a mind play sort of a thing, but it does work. So having your studio open is not just about selling work. It's about making future connections. I have postcards with my website and with my socials on. I have a sign up email list, and I also keep a visitors book where people might not necessarily be interested in buying a piece this time, but they're very happy to have been in the space and to have had a chat, and they want to give something back. And so just writing a note in the visitors book is something that people really enjoy to do, and it's lovely. People always write lovely things in there. It's lovely to look back on when you're feeling completely depleted and exhausted and wondering whether you'd ever do it again. You can look over those, because sometimes you don't remember. You're so busy talking, you don't necessarily remember everything that's said, but having those visitor comments there to read over can be very nourishing. And again, it's good for other people to read and see. It kind of inspires enthusiasm and things that perhaps they didn't see in the work. Someone might comment and go, oh yeah, that's true. I always mention that I open my studio every year. It's good for them to know that consistency as well, and an opportunity to come back and see what I have done in the year. You might also like to offer a door prize, have a little gift basket there, perhaps with some artwork and some things you've made in there, and perhaps as an enticement to sign up to the mailing list or something like that. They then go into the prize, into the draw to win an artwork or something like that. As I said, they're really big days and you may not get a chance to eat lunch properly or get a break at all. So having a friend or a family member around that can at least relieve you perhaps for toilet breaks and things is a really good idea, and to be able to perhaps bring you in a hot cup of tea on occasion can be really helpful. Try to enjoy yourself. They are big, exhausting days. They can be so rewarding though. Just remember, some people forget to have a filter on and they can be quite careless in their comments. Just know those comments say more about them than it does about you. Try and have a invisible bubble, protective bubble on when you're there, and just kind of try and let those comments bounce off. There'll be people that want to tell you their sister-in-law's cousin's dog creates art or something, which of course you're really not interested in, but what they're trying to do is connect to you. So just trying then to connect to them. Often they haven't visited because they want to come. They're there because they've got friends or family visiting from out of town or something and they're bringing them along. So try and roll with the punches of those comments. It can also be very helpful having your yes and comments ready, or your yes and statements ready. And what I mean by that is, if someone says, oh gee, your prices are high, you can say yes, and they're created with gallery quality art supplies and have an archival life of 300 to 400 years. Or you use a lot of pink. I was someone said, gee, your work's very feminine, and it's like, wow, yeah, like what do you say to that? So something I might say to, gee, you use a lot of pink, I might say, yes, and I've spent a lot of time recently developing my colour palette and I'm really in love with these dusty pinks I'm now including in the paintings. I hope I've included everything that I've got in my notes here. What I might do is again make this into a PDF available as a downloadable on my website. So you've got that in written form that's a little bit easier to follow if you are considering opening your studio. If you haven't got a studio and you'd still like to show your work, there's lots of other ways. You might have a open house where you hang your work in 1 or 2 rooms and perhaps a hallway, and invite friends and family. Can be a really nice first go at holding an event. Or you might have a friend that has a very lovely home that might be willing to do that for you. And of course there's cafes, wineries, theatre foyers, library foyers, gift shops are all great places to show your work. They all have their own pros and cons, and I can do another vlog on those specifically if you're interested. So I hope I haven't made it sound too daunting. It is a lot of work getting your studio up and ready to receive guests. Obviously, it's a very different space than a working studio is. I find it's really lovely to connect with people over art, and I hope you find this encouraging enough that you will be able to have your studio open one day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.